welcome to this deep dive. We've got some really fascinating source material in front of us today. We're exploring an ancient concept that, well, honestly feels incredibly current.
It really
We're
does.
diving into the idea of Dharma, specifically, how it's presented and wrestled with in the epic, the Mahabharata.
That's right. And when you look at the world or even just your own life, you see this constant flux, right? Moments of creation, then decay, joy, sorrow, things rise, things fall.
Yeah,
And
culling.
it brings up these huge questions, doesn't it? Like, how do you even figure out what the right thing to do is when things get complicated?
Hmm.
What actually provides structure or meaning, amidst all the chaos? Our sources really hammer home that these aren't just modern worries, they are absolutely central in the Mahabharata's world.
And the concept they keep circling back to for these big questions is Dharma.
Exactly.
The sources trace its origins back to the Sanskrit root dairy.
Duri, yeah. Which means something like to uphold or to support, to sustain.
Mhm.
And what's, well, immediately clear when you dive into these texts is that Dharma isn't just described as like personal ethics. It's framed as something much bigger.
Bigger how?
Almost a cosmic principle,
Oh,
the unseen law that keeps the universe in balance. It's presented as the force behind everything, life and death cycles, truth versus falsehood, the pull between our duties and our desires. It's like the fundamental scaffolding holding things together.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, or where the sources challenge a simple take. They don't just define Dharma and leave it there.
No, they don't.
They really pose the question. Is it just rules? Is it law? Is it only about personal morality, or maybe just what society expects? Or is it something more subtle, more complex?
And what really jumps out is how insistent the sources are. Dharma is not some rigid code. It's not just a list of commandments you can tick off.
Right, they really emphasize its subtlety and how it changes. It's not fixed. It depends on the time, the place, your specific situation.
There's this key line the sources highlight. From the sage Vyasa, traditionally seen as the compiler of the epic, he says, Dharma is subtle, difficult to grasp. Even the wise disagree on its meaning.
And that disagreement, that difficulty, that feels like the core of why it's subtle, doesn't it?
I think so.
The sources seem to be saying that what might be the perfect action for one person could be totally wrong for someone else in the same spot.
Exactly. Your Dharma, in their view, is unique. It's tailored to your role. Are you a warrior, a sage, a king, a peasant, a mother, a son, a friend, a ruler? It all depends on who you are, where you are, and what's happening right then.
And what's great is the Mahabharata doesn't just talk about this subtlety in theory. It throws its characters into these impossible binds precisely to show us how tricky Dharma is.
Absolutely. The epic uses their struggles almost like, well, like case studies.
Let's look at a few the sources focus on. You've got Arjuna right at the start of the Gita section, facing his own family across the battlefield.
Yeah, Kurukshetra.
He's a warrior. His Dharma says fight, but his family Dharma says protect your kin. He's completely stuck, torn between these duties that seem, well, impossible to reconcile.
Or think about Yudhishthira, the king, famous for sticking to the truth.
The Truth King.
Right. But his absolute, sometimes kind of blind commitment to just stating facts, even when tact or wisdom might be needed, actually contributes to disaster later on. So the sources show his dedication to one part of Dharma clashing with maybe a broader need for harmony or good outcomes.
And then there's Bhishma, such a powerful figure.
Oh, Bhishma, yeah. Bound by this incredibly strong vow of loyalty he made years before to the throne.
A vow he couldn't break.
Exactly. And it forces him to stand by, even fight for people he knows are doing wrong. His personal vow, which is a form of dharma for him, traps him into supporting adharma, actions against righteousness.
Wow. And Karna too, right? The sources point to him.
Ah, Karna, such a tragic figure. His fierce loyalty, his friendship with Duryodhana, it leads him to side against what the epic clearly presents as the side of Dharma.
So his loyalty, which is normally a virtue, a kind of Dharma in relationships,
ends up overriding the bigger picture of righteousness, leading to his downfall. It's heartbreaking, really.
So what all these characters show, as the sources lay it out, is that Dharma is almost never black and white.
Very rarely. It usually lives in those murky, difficult, gray areas.
And the sources seem to say that the real wisdom of the epic is found right there, in navigating that gray.
Exactly. That's where the depth is.
So, okay, if it's not just about following rules in a simple way, what is the core function of Dharma, according to these texts? What are we supposed to be aiming for?
Well, the sources suggest we should maybe shift how we think about it. It's not primarily about just labeling actions good or bad on their own.
Okay.
Fundamentally, it's about what upholds balance, cosmic balance, what sustains harmony. And that means harmony not just out there in the universe, but within your own soul, your family, your community, the world.
Ah, so it changes the question we ask about our actions. It's not just, am I following the rule, but what effect will this have?
Precisely. The core question becomes, will this action I'm considering preserve life, justice, order, that basic harmony? Or is it going to sow chaos, destruction, imbalance?
Okay, and for those moments that feel completely impossible, like Arjuna's dilemma, where no choice feels clearly right, do the sources give any guidance beyond just good luck?
Well, yes, they do, but it's subtle guidance, just like Dharma itself.
Naturally.
The epic, through these stories, really pushes for deep reflection. It suggests looking for wisdom beyond just the written laws or social customs, and crucially, it points towards acting for the greater good.
Even if it goes against what you personally want.
Yes, even if it defies personal gain, your attachments, maybe even what seems like the conventional thing to do, it's about figuring out the action that best upholds harmony in the whole complex web you're part of.
What's really powerful about this ancient way of looking at things is how much it speaks to life now. We face these kinds of conflicts all the time, don't we? Career versus family, telling a hard truth versus keeping the peace.
That push and pull between what we really want and what we feel we must do, some deeper obligation. Yeah.
Absolutely. Feels like the Mahabharata is sort of extending this invitation across the centuries, directly to you, the listener.
I like that way of putting it, an invitation.
In every significant moment, every choice, big or small, it invites you to just pause and ask, okay, what is my Dharma right here, in this role I'm playing, at this time, in this place?
What action right now will best preserve harmony inside me and around me?
That completely shifts the focus, doesn't it? Away from just an external checklist or what I want, towards this internal compass aiming for balance.
Yeah, it makes Dharma less about being good in a kind of judgmental way and more about being aligned with how things fundamentally work.
This has been, well, really eye-opening, seeing how complex and subtle this concept is, going way beyond just a simple definition.
It really shows why the Mahabharata is seen as such a profound text. It doesn't shy away from the messiness of life. It dives right in.
So just to circle back to the main takeaway from the sources today, when you're facing a choice, the voice of Dharma, it isn't found by just asking, what do I want?
Instead, according to these ancient texts, you find it by asking, what upholds harmony within me and around me?
That distinction feels absolutely key. It shifts the focus from just me and my desires to the interconnectedness, the impact of my actions.
That's the heart of it, I think.
So in our next deep dive, we're going to take this a step further. We'll look specifically at how the sources explore this idea of personalized Dharma.
Right, how it differs based on role.
Exactly. Examining, like they do, why a warrior's duty is so different from a sage's, for example. And how understanding this ancient idea that Dharma is unique to each person might actually give us clearer guidance for our own decisions today.
Yeah, there's a lot more to unpack there about how different roles carry different responsibilities according to these texts.
Definitely looking forward to that. So, as you go about your day, navigating all the choices that come up, maybe carry this thought with you, drawn straight from the Mahabharata's wisdom.
In every choice you face.
Pause and ask yourself not just what do I want, but rather what upholds harmony within and around me.
That, our sources suggest, is the authentic call of Dharma.
If this episode stirred something deep within you, hit subscribe and walk with us through the epic maze of Dharma. Next week, we explore why Dharma is never one size fits all.